It is 3 in the morning on a January night in Lancaster County, United States, and the temperature outside has dropped to 12 degrees below zero. An Amish father is already awake, feeding the wood stove before the household heat bleeds away into the frozen dark. There is no thermostat to adjust, no furnace to restart, and no utility company standing by to restore anything that fails tonight. What keeps this family alive through 6 more weeks of this is something that was never written down in any manual. Every breath he takes in that kitchen is visible, a small white cloud dissolving before it reaches the ceiling above him. The stove isn't a convenience in this house. It is the difference between a family that wakes up and one that doesn't. His children are sleeping under wool quilts their grandmother stitched before any of them were born, and that detail is not sentimental. The warmth those quilts hold right now is the product of a system so deliberate, so layered, and so deeply rehearsed that most people living with central heating would never recognize it as survival at all. What you're watching isn't hardship being endured. It's a plan being executed, one that started long before the first frost ever touched this ground. The wood that keeps a family warm in January was cut down in July, and that gap is not an accident. By midsummer, Amish men are already deep in the woodlot, felling hardwoods that need months to dry before they'll burn clean and hot. A single household burns through 6 to 8 cords across a full winter, and each cord weighs roughly 2 tons before it's split. That math alone tells you how much of the warm season belongs entirely to the cold one. The logs are split by hand, stacked in rows with enough air between them to pull the moisture out slowly and completely. Children carry wood alongside their fathers from the time they're old enough to grip a handle because this isn't a chore. It's a curriculum. Every generation learns the same lesson. The stove doesn't forgive a family that waited too long. By the first hard frost, the woodpile isn't just ready. It's a wall, a physical record of every hour spent preparing for what was always coming. And the question that follows naturally is whether the house itself was built to hold that heat in. The Amish home itself is the first line of defense against a winter that wants inside. Walls built from thick timber or dense masonry don't just block the wind. They absorb warmth during the day and release it slowly through the night. Ceilings are kept deliberately low, trapping the heat that rises before it can escape into dead air above. Windows are small and few, each one a calculated compromise between light and the cold that follows it. Rooms aren't arranged for comfort the way a modern floor plan is. They're arranged to protect a single source of heat. The family gathers in the kitchen where the wood stove burns, and the rest of the house is simply allowed to stay cold. Bedrooms are unheated by design because the Amish learned long ago that a warm body under heavy quilts needs far less from a room than we'd ever assume. Every structural choice compounds the last, forming a passive thermal system that no thermostat can replicate. You wouldn't build a house this way today, but you'd survive a winter in it when the grid went dark. And beneath that house, cut into the frozen earth, lies the next layer of the system entirely. By the time the first hard frost arrives, the work is already done. Every jar sealed, every cut of meat smoked, every root vegetable buried in sand and sawdust inside the cellar. Months of labor locked away before winter even announces itself. A single Amish family might put up 400 quarts of canned goods across one summer, enough green beans, tomatoes, and fruit preserves to carry 12 people through March. The cellar isn't storage, it's a lifeline, dug into the earth where the temperature stays just cold enough to keep things alive without freezing them solid. Fermented cabbage, dried beans, smoked hams hanging from the rafters, cured lard sealed in crocks. Each item represents a specific decision made in July or August about what this family will eat in January. Nothing is accidental and nothing is wasted because there is no trip to the store when the roads turn to ice. You start to understand the weight of that foresight when you realize a single failed harvest doesn't just mean a lean season. It means hunger. And if the cellar runs short before the thaw, the question isn't where to shop. It's how to keep the stove fed long enough to cook what little remains. By January, the hand pump in the yard has become the most dangerous object on the property. When temperatures drop below zero, the iron handle seizes, the pipe freezes solid, and every living thing on that farm is suddenly at risk of going without water. An Amish family doesn't call a plumber. They wrap the pump housing in burlap and old wool blankets before the first hard freeze even arrives. Cast iron wood stoves positioned near interior pipe runs keep the lines from locking up through the night. But livestock can't wait for a thaw, and a dairy cow needs close to 30 gallons of water every single day. That means someone is hauling heated water to the barn before sunrise, breaking ice off the surface of outdoor troughs with an axe, and doing it again before dark. Children as young as 8 carry buckets in temperatures that would send most adults back inside. The physical cost of that daily labor is something most people never see or consider. And the horses pulling those buggies through the same frozen dark, they need that water too. Black road glazed with overnight ice is a different kind of danger when your only vehicle weighs half a ton and runs on 4 hooves. The Amish don't cancel travel when winter tightens its grip. They recalculate it, the same way their grandparents did. A driver reads the road the night before, checking which routes follow ridgelines where wind scours the ice thin, and which valley roads pool into black glass by morning. The horse itself becomes the instrument of judgment, its ears and footing telling the driver what no forecast can. Shoes fitted with borium-tipped caulks bite into frozen asphalt, giving the animal purchase where a bare shoe would send it sprawling. Even so, a steep descent on a loaded buggy demands something most modern drivers have never practiced: the discipline to stop before the slope, not halfway down it. When a road becomes truly impassable, the buggy stays home, and that is when the silence around a farmhouse becomes something heavier than quiet. A family cut off from its neighbors isn't just inconvenienced, it's exposed in ways that go beyond cold or hunger. The horse, blanketed and stalled and fed extra grain against the freeze, will be ready when the road opens again. The question is whether the road opens before the family needs something it cannot provide for itself. When a storm buries a farm under 2 feet of snow, no one calls a hotline or waits for a government truck. The first sign of help is a lantern moving through the dark, crossing a field that no plow has touched. Amish neighbors don't organize rescue through phones or group chats. They organize it through years of watching each other's land. If old Jakob Stoltzfus hasn't lit his barn lamp by 6 in the morning, someone is already pulling on boots. That kind of attention is not charity. It's a system, built quietly across generations and maintained without a single written rule. Elderly couples and widowed mothers are checked first, their woodpiles restocked before anyone asks, their livestock fed alongside a neighbor's own. When a family faces a difficult winter in mid-January, the community doesn't send a card. It sends labor, arriving before sunrise with shovels and covered dishes. You have to ask yourself what it would take to trust your survival entirely to the people around you. That trust is the warmest thing in an Amish winter, and it's the one thing no amount of modern infrastructure has ever managed to replace. That man at the stove before dawn isn't following a manual. He's performing a memory, one his father handed him without a single written word. Every cord of wood stacked in October, every jar sealed in September, every neighbor who showed up without being asked, it's all one system, and the system is alive. It doesn't live in a book or an app or a government pamphlet about emergency preparedness. It lives in the hands of Amish youth learning to split wood, in the rhythm of a woman who knows exactly how many jars her family needs to reach April. What the Amish have built isn't a lifestyle. It's a form of knowledge that modern society quietly traded away for convenience. The real question isn't how they survive winter. It's what we lost when we decided we no longer had to.